Oh, okay. Well, I think we're live again today at 11 a.m. Super excited. There we go. Okay, so we're coming live again from Facebook and Instagram. So if one is giving you trouble, you can always check us out on the other one. And if you ever have missed an episode or a topic that you would like to look at or take another look at, you can always go to our YouTube, and there is a playlist of all the lives that we have done in the past. Today is all about kind of the job application process and getting hired, or getting your foot in the door, all of those different things. And then next week we are going to be talking more about actually getting interview ready. So today is a lot about the process to get an interview, and then next week will be what you should do during an interview, how you should prepare for an interview, all of those different things. I might be hopefully Facebook you got all that, but maybe not. So next week we're talking about interview process. This week we're talking about the job application process. We're going to talk about a couple different things today, and I'm going to share some steps for some of those things. Not everything necessarily has steps, so we'll just be sharing tips and tricks about those things, but hopefully it's very helpful for all of you. And again, you can comment that you're here, comment any questions you might have during or even after this. We'd be happy to get back to you, all of those different things. So hopefully this is helpful. And I know, jobs are looking a little different. If you're looking for a summer job this summer, might be a little different search than normal, but you always can use these skills or tips when you're working, starting your career or something like that, maybe after college or for college, all of those different things. So we are going to get started. So the main things we're going to talk about is just what you need for your job application, and the different things they might look at when you are applying for a job. So first and foremost is look at the qualifications, look at the job description, all of those different things, very important. They don't just write it for fun, they write it for a reason. So you want to make sure that the job description matches something you actually want to do, which is kind of easy to do, just making sure that those would kind of check your boxes of something you want to do with your time. And then also looking at the qualifications, so making sure that you meet most of those. Sometimes you don't need to meet all of them, but it is very important to look at those and make sure that they're not just going to throw you out right away just because you don't meet some of those. One big one would be, education. Sometimes there's going to be you have to have your master's degree to have this job. So obviously if you don't have your master's degree, they might just toss your resume, toss your cover letter, toss your application right off the bat. Sometimes those are preferred or recommended to have, but if you have experience in that field with years and years, or just some experience in general, they might overlook that necessarily. So it always kind of depends. Make sure you read it. Usually they are pretty specific about those different things, and if you feel like you could maybe do that job, but technically on their application, we on the qualifications you don't 100% match up, just apply. I mean, maybe they do throw you out on the first round before they really get further into it, but maybe they don't, and maybe they see that your experience matches what they need and all of those different things. So, and when in doubt, you can always apply, and it probably won't really hurt you. With that too, look at what is required for you to submit. So do you need a cover letter? Do you need a resume? All of those things. What do you need for them to want to hire you? And you want to make sure that you submit that right off the bat, the first time, all at once. A lot of jobs now have portals that are online, and it makes it a lot easier for you to put all of your information. They might have a questionnaire, and then you maybe have to upload your resume, upload a cover letter, maybe a letter of recommendation, all of those different things. And maybe it won't allow you to submit until you have marked all those things off or done all of those things, which is really helpful and beneficial for you, so you can be like, oh shoot, I forgot to include my resume, or all of those different things. But if they don't have a portal, if you are sending in by mail or email, just always double check what their want ad said about those things, and make sure that you included all of those things. And we're going to talk about the steps to make those things look perfect for when you do submit it. So next part of this is, sometimes it's really not a part of the job application process, but it is something that might go into the thought of hiring you or interviewing you. All of those different things is your social media. So usually it won't be asked for. Sometimes it is. Sometimes they want to look at that stuff, or they might just search you in general. So people always say to Google yourself. You might have to actually, include some information about yourself when you try to Google yourself, or you won't come up. If you have a common name like mine, you probably won't show up on the first just typing in your name. Sometimes you might have to include like where you live, so like Salisbury, Maryland might have to be added, and then you'll start to see yourself, and you want to make sure that what pops up is a good representation of you. What pops up for me when I do include, Salisbury, Maryland after my name, it includes, some of my clubs that I was involved with in college or something. So it didn't hurt me in any way, and it kind of shows that I did care, or I was involved, all of those different things. Social media is important though, because it shows kind of more of who you are as a person, and not just what you have accomplished or what your skills are. So it shows more of your personality, and you want to make sure that reflects positively. Obviously, you're young, you're having fun. You should post pictures of you hanging out with your friends, but obviously if you're doing some questionable behavior in a picture, you might not have time to explain what that was actually going on. Maybe it wasn't that questionable at all, but if an employer comes across that, they might again toss you out before you get to the interview, and then you can't really explain yourself. So just always thinking about that. Sometimes they might care about errors in your grammar or something, but typically it's so much more informal that that's not always going to be the biggest thing. They're going to be looking more at your pictures or something like that. Do you have any connections? Do they have mutual friends? All of those different things they might look at. Also, do you align with the company's values? So obviously you are free to share your opinion, and maybe they'll like that you have a different perspective of something, but it's important to maybe look at the company's mission and what you're saying online versus what they believe or what they're saying online. Sometimes that might contradict, and so then it might not work out in your favor. So always just thinking and being careful of what you're posting is the best rule of thumb. And when you delete stuff, sometimes it does go away, sometimes it doesn't. So it's always important to look at those things and what you're posting about. Also, you don't want to post about previous employers and how terrible or awful that experience was. That's not going to put a good taste in their mouth, because they're going to feel that if, it isn't a good fit after all, you do get hired, but it isn't a good fit, so then you have to leave. They don't want you to blast them again just because their culture and yours was different or something like that. So it's always important to remember that yes, you can share your opinions and ideals and all of those different things, but just thinking, is this going to be positive, or is this going to prohibit me from getting a job in the future or something like that. So always just, maybe vent to your friends about the previous employer before, or rather than posting it online, all of those different things. Okay, so that's social media in a nutshell for applying for a job. Resume, we're going to start on that next. So your resume is very important. This is going to show a snapshot of who you are, what skills you have, what you've accomplished, all of those different things. Very important to check for errors before you submit your resume, because people typically only have a short period of time to glance over your resume, and if they can't find what information they're looking for, they're going to toss you aside. Or if they see an error, they're going to toss you aside because your attention to detail maybe isn't up to par, which typically it is, but sometimes that might hurt you. So, having people look over it is always important. And make sure you kind of tailor it to your resume. So I'm going to tailor it to the job you're applying for. So I'm going to show you some steps, and I'll get more in details about those. So our first step, number 1, so you need to have your name on it. You should have, some contact information, your email, your phone number. The tradition has been to put your address. I don't always see why that's important, but that's beyond me. So if you think it's good to put your address, that's always a good idea. There are plenty of templates online, on Word, Google, whatever, to use to make your resume. You don't always have to use this, but I do recommend, don't use the ones with bright pink and yellow. Use some that are more, black ink, blue ink, something similar. Simple, that will go a long way, because again, when someone's looking for specific information about you to make sure that you meet like the job qualifications, they probably don't want to have to try to read yellow ink on a piece of paper. So always just kind of make sure that it's more simple than anything. You want yourself and your skills to stand out, not the color of the font or whatever. Simple. So at the top should be your name, your email, your phone number, and possibly your address, obviously, so they can get in contact with you. What's super important is your name should be nice and bold. The font size might vary, but one thing to do, one little trick, because typically you want your resume to be one page, is to have your email address, which should be very appropriate and professional. It shouldn't be drama queen 99. It should be something just with your name in it, and then maybe have a slash to then separate it from your phone number. They'll obviously know the difference because your email will end with a .com typically, and then you can have a slash to kind of separate it, and then you can have your 10-digit phone number. And that just kind of saves space. So instead of having 2 different lines, you'll have one line with all the information they need. And again, you can also do this with your address. So you can put your address on one single line instead of having it separated like you would do when you're writing an envelope or something. So that's step 1. Put your name, email, phone number, possibly your address. You can find templates online to help with all of those things. But again, just to save space, if you are running out of space or something, you can always sync up some of those lines, and it'll be very helpful. Now we're going to get into the meat and the body of the resume, and some of this might vary on how you want to exactly format it. So whether you want your education on top or on the bottom, it all is kind of personal. Typically, people are looking at your education. So if you're writing a resume for college, they do want to see where you went to high school, all of those different things. A lot of times, if the job qualification does require a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, you kind of want to put that on top so they can see oh, okay, they do meet that qualification or need, and then they can check that box, and then they'll move on to your skills and your experience and all of that stuff. So that's why I personally put it on top, and I think that's probably a good rule of thumb. Again, it's your resume, make it your own. It's time for you to share your personality, so it's worth while to do that. So step 2, we're going to go with education. So education, so you want to put your highest grade completed. So whether you're a senior in high school, you'll put that you are, graduating in May, or maybe you already have graduated, congratulations. Or that maybe, you're in, you're expecting to graduate in, 2021, 2022, all of those different things. Then you can put some honors if you have any from school, or if you've completed college, you can put your college there, that kind of thing. Your GPA, so I have GPA and I have 3.0 in parentheses. typically if it's lower than that, they might not really want to see it. So you don't always have to put your GPA. You can if you want, but you don't have to. Some people don't like seeing a GPA. It is usually put on your resume, so kind of varies. People are different. And then you can also include classes that are relevant. Typically, people don't recommend putting your classes on there, but if you take a class in, how to use Excel to the nth degree, all of those different things, it might be helpful to include that you did take a graphic design class, so you are, you do know the basic principles of that, because I don't, and I didn't take a class like that. So sometimes it is good to put the classes that might help you getting a job. Next, number 3. So this is our work volunteer experience. So I have related experience in quotation marks. Personally, for me, on my resume, I have it as related experience. I don't have it as work experience, because with your resume, like I said, you want to tailor it to the job that you're applying for. So I might change up my resume and what's on top of my related experience based off of what the qualifications or the job description is. So I will, maybe move the fact that I volunteered or something to the top if that's whatever I volunteered for was maybe an event and I'm applying for an event job or something like that. So it all just kind of depends, what they're looking for and what your experience matches. And, if you did something that hits most of the qualifications that the job description asked for, maybe put that on top, because again, the people that are reading your resume might not have that time to really dive into it, and it might be helpful for them to just see it right on top, and it's a lot easier for the eyes to grab. Again, I say use bullet points. Bullet points are your friend. Again, since they don't usually have much time to read it, this is a snapshot, so it needs to be quick and easy to read. They don't want to read paragraphs. And then use active verbs, so you're assisting, all of those kind of things. Some of them are, a little cliche or overused. Obviously, don't overuse the words. And obviously, again, be honest. Be super honest about what you have done. Don't lie on your resume, because it will come back to bite you in the butt, I believe. It's very important to think about what you're saying and posting it properly. And again, like I said, tailor. So tailor your resume to that job. So make sure that if they asked for a certain thing, you put that up top and you show, your experience level and all of the different things you have done. Very important also to put dates. So again, like with your education, you need to put that, you're currently pursuing your high school degree, and you're expecting to graduate in 2020, 2021. Or, include that you are, but then like with your related experience, include those dates of when you did those things, if you still are. So you say the date that you started. Typically I stick with month and year, and then say to the present. So you put a little dash and then write present. There you go. Or if you have completed that, you say the date to end. Again, I typically like to use month and year instead of the exact date, because usually I don't know exactly what date I started or ended something either. The next thing, 4, so this is for extracurriculars or personal skills. So this is more relevant experience or skills, like, again, like I said, Excel. If you are certified or something and using Excel, that's not a bad thing to put on there. A lot of people like to know that. If you are proficient in Microsoft Suite, obviously don't lie. Again, proficiency means a certain level of understanding of all of those things. You know what most of the buttons do. So, you can just say that you are well rehearsed in those things. Maybe use a different word. But this is where you can put some just extra materials about yourself, sharing that, you were a team captain for your sports team. That shows an extent of leadership, but maybe it's not exactly related experience that, you have a bunch of bullet points to put on under, and more of just something like you kind of want to point out to them to show a certain skill or thing that maybe they're looking for. So it's again, definitely relevant. This could maybe be where you put that class too, and if you didn't want to put it under education. So that's step 4, extracurriculars and personal skills. And lastly, step 5 is references. So you can name and put contact information for people who can vouch for you for all of the things you just said in your resume. Personally, I always have references upon request. Typically, they will ask for a reference that you can then email them the contact information, or, in that portal, you might have to type in their information or something like that. So references are always important, but again, if you are trying to squeeze in so much information onto one sheet of paper, then maybe you don't have the room to list out 10 people that can vouch for you or something like that, and don't put 10 people on there in general. But, it's always important to kind of keep that in mind, that is something you should have on your resume. So that's your resume. Again, make sure that it shows who you are. Don't lie on it, but be honest and, obviously make it sound a little better than just, I took people's orders and then I brought them their food. Maybe say that you ensured a positive customer service experience. If that's a job qualification, being good with customers, that's a good thing to put down. So, never be embarrassed about all the experiences you have and never lie about them, but, always make them sound a little more professional. That's how I would say that. Make sure you have dates on it, so it's very important. Okay, now for our cover letter, which isn't always required and maybe not required for a summer job, but will, eventually be required. This is a very short, brief letter. And again, should also only be like a page. And now we're going to go into the steps. So next, again, step number 1, put your name, email, phone number, address. One of the best tips that someone ever told me was to make it look exactly as your resume. So make sure at the top with your name, your phone number, your email, your address should be similar to what your resume looks like. That way they kind of look like a pair and they go together. Because typically people are going to be looking at it at the same time. They're not going to look at your resume and then pass your cover letter to someone else. Usually it's going to be the same person, probably looking at them side by side, one after the other, something like that. Your cover letter is a chance for them to understand you a little bit more and see how you would fit with that job even more than just your resume snapshot. So you can go in a little bit more detail. Again, like I said, it is only 1 page, but you write paragraphs for your cover letter. It's not just bullet points. So we are going to have our name, phone number, email, address all at the top, and then you are going to make it addressed to the person you are sending it. If they, don't provide a name or you don't know a name, you can put to whom it may concern, or if they do provide a name, please put dear. But also in the little top spot, you should put like the company name, possibly their name if you have it. If you don't have a name, just don't skip this part. Then you put like their street address, and then you can put the city and state and zip code that they live in. So that's how you should kind of have the top part. Then you're going to have dear, and then we're going to get into our letter. So paragraph 1. So I like to think of my cover letter in 3 paragraphs. It's kind of short and sweet, and these paragraphs do not have to be 5 to 7 sentences long. These can be a little shorter. That's okay. So paragraph 1 is what position you are applying for. So yes, you might include a couple more sentences than just I'm applying for blah blah blah. You might say, more along the lines of like, dear, or to whom it may concern, I am applying for the job of blank at your company. Maybe use the company name, and below you will find more reasons why I would like this job or something along those lines. Google some cover letters, they'll help you out a lot. Again, there are some templates. You don't really need a template for a cover letter. You can just use a blank Word document. So paragraph 1 is just really saying, this is the job I'm applying for. Paragraph 2 is more details of why you are qualified for the job, mentioning your skills, from your resume, the qualifications that they specified in the job description. So number 3 is very important. This is where you get to go in more detail. So instead of just having those bullet points, and listing maybe a lot of experience, you're going to focus on a couple of experiences that work well for you. I'm having technical difficulties with Facebook again, so that's awesome. But that's why it's super important to super important to have that Sorry, guys. I cannot live without technical difficulties, apparently. So paragraph 2 is more details about those different things, those different experiences that you've had. Maybe pull some of the words that they use in their job qualification or job description, their job ad, to highlight in your cover letter and share the experiences that you have that will, kind of make you stand out a little bit more. So paragraph 2 can be a lot longer than paragraph 1 because you're going into more detail. You're sharing that you've done some of your research, you've really looked and read and paid attention to that job description that goes well beyond you'll ever imagine. So it's very important to do that. Paragraph 3. So this is kind of just your closing remarks and how you can advance the goals of the company. So paragraph 3 can again be a shorter paragraph, but it can show that you've done some research, you know the mission of the company, you know what their values are and why that aligns with your values, or how you can advance the company, what maybe new projects they might have just launched or something, how you're excited about it. You can also add some personal notes of, if you have experience with the company or in your day-to-day life, you can share that, I bought one of your shirts and I have it for 10 years and I love it and I love it and I love it and it's just so amazing and I can't wait to work for your company, or something along those lines. Last but not least is number 5, the farewell. So, just as you wrote dear or to whom it may concern, please put sincerely. Under your third paragraph, you can maybe have a sentence saying, I really look forward to hearing from you soon. Thank you for this opportunity. And then you can put sincerely, your name, all of those different things. And then it should be about a page. Shouldn't be half a page, should be more of a page. Shouldn't be more than, and also it shouldn't be double spaced. So your paragraph should be all together, tight. I know sometimes school has messed you up to think that everything needs to be double spaced, but this is a letter, so you shouldn't be double spacing it. Again, with your cover letter, you might need to tailor it to whomever you are applying for, whatever company you're applying to. It's very important to do all of those things. Make sure people check it for any errors. If you're applying to a lot of jobs, which most people, aren't typically just applying to one job, especially if they're just out of college or high school or something, you're applying to multiple jobs, make sure that you have changed the company name, the position, title, whoever you are sending it to. Those are huge errors that are going to make people not want to interview or anything like that. So making sure that you do tailor it, you do change some words, but also making sure that you do have those specific information correct. So it's always important to do that. I know it takes a lot of time to do that tailoring, but it's totally worth it. They're going to see that attention to detail and that you cared and looked at their job description, and you're not just applying to apply, you're applying to get a job. That's super important. Have others read all of your work. And now that everything is a lot done virtually and not, handing in your resume or mailing it. You might be emailing or again putting it into that portal. Save it with your first and last name, and then maybe if you do have to do a resume and a cover letter, put your first, your last name, resume, your first, your last name, cover letter, save. And that way it's a lot easier for them to find those little details that make you easier to find, to see, will go a long way than someone that just titled it resume, because on your computer you only have your resume you're looking at probably, but on theirs they might have 10 or 40 or something like that. So it's very important to put your name on there so they can find it. And again, the simpler it is for them to read, to find all of those things, the less follow-up they have to do, because you send everything in at once goes a long way. So it's very important to make sure that you reread, triple read all of the job descriptions, what they're asking you to turn in, and then also what you are turning in. So make sure you do all of those things, and then next week we will be discussing what to do for the interview. So hopefully this helps you along the way getting a summer job, or further on in your career, all of those different things. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Bye.